Welcome in to another episode of the Outsider Podcast. I am your host, Drew Landry, and in today's episode, I get into why it's called the Outsider Podcast, and I get into the scapegoats that's called the uncertified teachers that happen here in Texas. Thanks for tuning in to the number one podcast in all of Lubbock. It's great for you to be tuning in with me today. Whenever you are tuning in with me. So thank you for that. I appreciate your listenership. Now, I want to tell you why I called the newsletter this, why I called the podcast this, why it's called The Outsider in general. Because when I've given perspective and when I've talked about issues from this angle, I get told by certain people, well, you don't know. You know, like that's what I often get told is, well, you don't know what's on the inside. You don't know what happened. And I've embraced it. I've never once claimed to be an insider, except for the times when I am. I've always considered myself to be an outsider. I've always considered myself to be somebody who is looking at things through the outside glass, like you're window shopping, like you're just looking in, seeing what you see, and I call it like I see it. And there are people who appreciate that, several hundred people who appreciate that. Then there are those who don't. and the ones who don't, well, they usually like to tell me that they don't appreciate it. So all that to say, that's the reason that it's called The Outsider is I've never once claimed to be an inside person. I don't know what a lot of the inside talk is. I know what a lot of those conversations are because I have been on the inside during those times. But for by and large, I'm an outside person, and I look at things, and I can judge what I see. And unless you're some magician doing your misdirection trick, I'm seeing is believing, and so unless there's something else going on there right in front of my face that I'm missing, that's not on me. And that's where this whole conversation derives. It derives from a citizen's perspective who understands the process and who can give people a very clear picture explanation as to what's going on. All right? I get information from a variety of sources. People who are on the inside. People who have a clearer view on the inside than I do. And I have no problem with that. I cite my sources. I'm not somebody who will say things as if it's my own idea. That is dishonest. That's a lot of intellectual dishonesty, and I don't play that game. That said, there are those who do, and I'm not going to get into that angle. I don't want to take this introduction or this first part of the episode into a different direction than what I planned to. But that's the reason that it's called The Outsider, is that I'm not an insider. All right, I'm not somebody who is going to be on the inside and violate my I don't want to say oath or for lack of a better word, like violate the people who are there and their trust that they would have by telling outsiders what happened. My view on things is coming from what I see, and what I see are the results. And when I ask questions as to how that happened, I expect to have an answer. Now, it's also fair to say that a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but it is fair to say that speculation exists. And speculation exists because a lot of people in power don't like to answer questions. Let that be known. And I'm not talking about Lubbock. I'm not talking about Lubbock County. I'm not talking about Congress. We're also talking about Texas leaders. There are those who just flat out don't want to talk to the media. And so that leaves us trying to explain what happened. And that leaves us with speculation. And so there's an easy way to end speculation, is by coming clean, talking to the media, explaining what happened, and all that. That's how you can get rid of a lot of speculation, is just telling us what took place. But when you don't do that, but when leaders don't do that, this is what we're left to do. And they like to blame people like me who call like I see, connect dots that I see that exist, and they get all like really mad. Like they get super mad. I know there's other words you could say here than emphasizing super, but they get very, very upset. And they like to take that out on people. And that's fine. You know, I can live without the things that they provide when it comes to access. I don't need it. But it's interesting that that's what they get mad about. There's so many other things to be upset about, but they choose that. All right, all that to say this. This sort of perspective has caused me to want to write, and caused to give a perspective, and caused to give, well, as I've said before, to call it like I see. And if they have a problem with what I see, it's not my eyes. My eyes ain't the problem. All right? I have corrective lenses. I have a clear understanding of process. I'm not the problem. But they like to blame me, you know. So, and other people who do this as well. So that's why it's called The Outsider, is I've never claimed to be an insider. Okay? And I just call like I see. Sometimes what I call, people don't like it, and that's on them. That's not a me thing. That's a them thing. All right. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to say, you know, why did I call my podcast, what did I call my newsletter, The Outsider? That's the reason. And I think it's fair for you to know why I, you know, there's a reason for things. You know, it's not randomness, unless it is. But this one is not random. This is an actual reason for it, and so hence this. And that's the first item that I wanted to address in today's episode. The second thing I wanted to address is you were supposed to get this podcast, supposed to get this episode last week. There was a problem, and the problem was the way I recorded it. And so I had a technical issue, is really what it comes down to. I recorded 30-some minutes, and I didn't realize that the medium that I was using to record did not accept the microphone. So when I sent it out to my paid subscribers, and just by the way, small little plug here, paid subscribers to The Outsider get daily posts, and they get posts first. Free subscribers get it on a delay. And so I had a paid subscriber send me an email going, "Hey, what the heck happened?" Well, my own dumb thought was, well, just click play. and then I realized that I was wrong, and I had to send out a corrective email to say, "Hey, look, paid subscriber so and so just told me that something's up with the recording. Here's the problem, and I'm going to correct it." And so you were supposed to get this. Well, I say last week. You're supposed to get this Monday. Well, you didn't get it Monday, so that's why you got the other. For those who are free subscribers, that's why you got the free post just the other day. And so you're getting this post later in the week, so you get two posts, all right? Hopefully that doesn't drive anybody to do anything drastic like, I don't know, unsubscribe it. Don't even think I even said that. Spread the news. get more subscribers. And here's another little tidbit, another little plug, that if you share this and other people click on this link, click on the link that you shared, then you get like a month of like paid content. Like you get comp for that. You get that for free. So if you share it and lots, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people click on your link that you shared, then you get like a month free of paid content. I think that's pretty awesome. So yeah. All right. So my apologies for not getting you a podcast episode earlier in the week. That's why you're getting it now. Now, here's the last topic that I want to spend some time on, and it has to do with public education, which if you know me, and therefore you know that I'm very passionate about this particular topic. That said, I wrote an opinion piece that was published in last week's Daily Morning News. Dallas Morning News. Excuse me. I would have that would have been incorrect for me to continue that. I had to correct that. So, published in the Dallas Morning News, that really was rather stunning. And here's what it says here. In that, in this piece, that we're dealing with a study that derived from Texas Tech University. And here's what the study says. Well, here's what the study found, is what I should say. It found, let me get it right here. It found a strong correlation between students who are taught by unlicensed teachers and there being a significant learning gap. According to the study, students with new uncertified teachers lose about 4 months of learning in reading and 3 months in math. That's quoted directly from the study. This means that uncertified teachers with zero classroom experience are more likely to considerably set back students in learning than teachers who have degrees and are certified, which is a staggering result. And so why do we have uncertified teachers to begin with? Let's start there. Why do they exist? Well, because of the continual teacher shortage, and yes, there is one. And I got to do a little side note here. Side note, shout out to a former colleague of mine who retired and is happily retired. He would say side note in class. And I got to go on a little small tangent here. Because there are people who have microphones and who have an audience who honestly believe that there is not a teacher shortage. And it's like you're looking at a picture and everybody can figure out what the picture is, but one person says, well, that's technically not it. It's actually it's something else. Like everybody can see that that's a dog in the picture. That the picture is a dog, and then this person wants to say that no, it's an alligator, and you're going, what? And so here's where they get this idea. This is where it actually comes from. It comes from a small factoid from the Texas Education Agency, TEA, and it has to do with retention. That they retain certain teachers. Well, this is like a Perry Mason like factoid, and they like to strut around like a peacock, showing its feathers. Well, I told you there's no teacher shortage. Listen up, okay? There is a teacher shortage, and here's how they're getting filled. Schools are forced to look in unconventional areas for instructors, and they're able to do this because of the passage of the Every Student Succeeds Act in 2015 that President Obama signed into law. And that hiring highly qualified teachers is no longer required for states to receive federal education dollars. That used to be the only way you could get federal education money, is if you hired highly qualified teachers. Okay? Except ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, says you don't have to do that anymore. All right? It kind of overturned or trumped, I guess if you want to say there, using a verb, the No Child Left Behind Act that was signed in 2002. But let's understand that while this gives states a lot of flexibility, requirements to teach still exist. And yes, it's less rigorous, but you still have requirements. According to Tim Riegel from the TEA, one needs completion of 2 years of higher education, generally defined as 48 semester credit hours, and associates or higher, all right, or knowledge and ability to assist in instruction of reading or reading readiness, writing or writing readiness, and math or math readiness, as demonstrated through a formal state or local assessment. To put it another way, if someone can pass a formal assessment, that person can lead a classroom. That's essentially what we've done here. And the Dallas Morning News did an investigative piece last year about who these possible uncertified teachers could be, and they did a pretty good job here, that they may be switching careers from the corporate world or could be coming from the military. They could have worked as teachers in other states but didn't want to apply for the Texas certification when they relocated. They could be recent graduates drawn to the classroom amid heavily publicized news about the teacher shortage. Their level of training could very much be wide-ranging. And I want to be clear about something. The call has been made, and they're answering the call, and I commend them for that. That is an honest-to-God good thing. And their hearts and their minds are in the right place. But let's be clear about this. If the data is any indication of the quality of these uncertified teachers, something has got to change. All right? And what we're looking at here is when we actually examine what's happening in the rural areas. All right? Rural schools are 4 times more likely to hire uncertified teachers than those from the urban or suburban areas. According to the Texas Tech study, they made up 80% of new hires in 40 counties across Texas. So we're talking the Rio Grande Valley. We're talking East Texas. We're talking Big Sky Country. We're talking the Concho Valley, the Hill Country, far West Texas, the Panhandle, the Cap Rock. This is what we're talking about. And to make 80% of new hires in 40 counties across Texas because of this teacher shortage. And these are staggering findings from the Texas Tech research concerning this issue. Make no mistake about it. But there is somebody to blame for all this. And let's be clear. The person to blame, all the blame goes to the desks of the governor and the legislature. Because during the 88th regular session and the 4 special sessions that followed, this issue could have been addressed. How could it have been addressed? Oh, I don't know. With proper funding for public education? But it couldn't. Let's just go back to 2023. Let's go back to that moment. Because the first special session had to deal with property tax relief. And it went nowhere. The House adjourned early. After a few days, it got out. The Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick kept saying, "Come back, please come back." Like the song goes, "Baby, come back." No. But the House didn't. Abbott said, "You're coming back again," and so both chambers were actually able to come up with a property tax relief plan. All right, so it took 140 days, and then it took 60 days. So it took 200 days from the second Tuesday in January of 2023 until the summer to 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 actually do something that Republicans have agreed upon since, for the last 20 years. Which I guess there's still room to do things on this issue. That said, you had two special sessions there. Then you had the impeachment trial of Kim Paxton, which was the biggest fix since the 1919 World Series. And then shortly thereafter, you had two special sessions to deal with school voucher programs. And I want to make one thing clear. I am not saying school choice, and that's on purpose. Because, as I wrote in another piece for the Dallas Morning News, choice exists in education in Texas. And I've talked about this, and I've written about this relentlessly. If you honestly believe that choice doesn't exist, you need to get your head out of the sand. You need to stop listening to people who've been telling you that. Because it does. All right? So let's just be clear. I want to be as crystal clear about this. These are all school voucher programs. All right? So those who say these things like school choice are part of a propaganda team to make it feel that you, the parent, you with your child are trapped, that you have no choices. I can only send them to this school. That is a bunch of malarkey. It is 100% a bunch of malarkey. And those who say that, and if you're listening to this and you are someone who says that, you're wrong. Okay? To even impersonate the former president, you're wrong. Totally wrong. Okay, I don't want to do that too much. Now, I also want to make it very clear that the school voucher programs were done in the third and fourth special session. Again, I'm still on this side note. I'm still on a side note. Sorry. And so it was all about getting these about 21 Republicans from the more rural areas of Texas on the record about a school voucher program. That's what it was about. I'm one of these people who believes that the governor didn't want to actually have this bill passed. Okay? Because he had it in his mind that it wasn't going to pass. So let me get him on the record not once, not twice. I can say that I went to bat for all these billionaires and other rich people who want a coupon or a coupon program to send their kid who's already in a private school back to that same private school. And I can tell them that I went to bat for them. They'll donate money to my campaign. They'll help me in the next election. They'll help me go after these people. So if I can get them on the record not once but twice, then I've got some really solid ammo coming into this election. And Abbott is a very good politician. He's a good maneuverer of elections. He understands the needs of his base, of the people who vote in Republican primaries. And it's been said, I'm not the one to say this, but it was easy to really figure it out. There's data to suggest only about 2% of Republican primary voters that their top issue was public education. Number one issue within Republican voters, and again, polling showed this, was immigration / border security. So border security was the top issue going into this. All the Republicans who were in the Texas legislature had a very strong record on border security. So, but he being Abbott went after those 21 Republicans. About 5 of them didn't come back, so I guess 16 Republicans who five. I'm sorry. When I say five didn't come back, I should say five retired, so they weren't seeking re-election. So these 16 Republicans who were still wanting to come back, he used that vote to identify his enemies and to say that they're weak on the border. And that's exactly what he did, and it worked for most of them. Well, for several of them is what I should say. So he had a plan, was to go after these anti-voucher Republicans, mainly from the rural areas, okay, and then not even use school vouchers as the calling card, okay. He used the immigration. Polling has suggested this, and I need to say I'm not the first one to come to this conclusion, all right. But he didn't use that. He didn't use that strategy for Republicans who voted with him on the school voucher bill. All right. So back on track here. He used these two special sessions in the fall to early winter of 2023 to set up the primary fight. Okay, to set up the primary fight that was going to happen in the March primary, okay, for the Republicans. And he got a lot of them. He had their aim, and he went after them, and he got a lot of them. Now Abbott's counting his chickens before they hatch. He already thinks that everything's a done deal. That come January 2025, school vouchers, whatever program, whatever bill that comes up is going to happen. And it's one of the worst kept secrets in Austin is that the governor, Abbott, does not like to work with the legislature. So instead of trying to find compromise, he'll just put people in there who he knows who will vote for his program. And I think that's the plan. Again, if you've been following the Texas legislature and you've been following Texas politics on this is nothing new. But that said, throughout all this issue, they could have addressed public education funding. But Abbott was only willing to do it through one avenue, his way, and that was through the Bill Buckley. Brad Buckley, the Brad Buckley bill from Killeen, where he was going to combine it. He was going to combine the school voucher program in with funding for public education, in with teacher pay raises, and that was going to be your big compromise. That was going to be the deal. They didn't want it. Lawmakers didn't want it. They rejected it. And so, because of the school voucher issue, that was what was going to actually take place. And it's worth mentioning because this question has been posed to a lot of school voucher advocates. Is if the program is so popular, why don't you just have it being voted on by itself? Like have a clean bill, only done with school vouchers, only that way. As opposed to coupling it and making teachers hostage to their pay raise and schools hostage to their proper funding. Why do it that way? Well, because they know. They know that it would probably never pass on its own, and they want them on the record. They want those who are against this sort of thing on the record. And so that somebody can come along and say, well, you voted against teacher pay raises. Well, what I really voted against was a school voucher program that was unfairly tied with teacher pay raises. And you have to tell the whole story. Now, politics won't do that. You know that. Come on now. But that said, that was the deal. And holding public education funding, and teacher pay raises hostage for a school voucher program was really the wrong move if we're being fair and we're being honest. Because teachers were treated as a bartering chip in this silly game of poker, it left them feeling sore and despondent. So much so that 65% of participants in a recent Texas State Teachers Association survey almost quit at the end of last year, at the end of May of 2024 or June of 2024. 65% almost quit. More than half of the respondents felt Texas leaders did not have a positive opinion about them. And look, we know that a majority of the Texas lawmakers don't respect teachers. We know that. Like they have little to no respect for this profession. Dan Patrick, the lieutenant governor, he's got next to nothing with it. But because a lot of the time these lawmakers go uncontested in their races, they're able to pull this off. Or they live in quote-unquote safe districts, meaning they can, eat a baby on live TV and still be elected. That may be a bit drastic. But, they can do really whatever that they want and not face any sort of elective consequence. And what drives me crazy is the platitudes, that a lot of these lawmakers will show at the beginning of the school year, and they'll say, "Oh, we love you, teachers," stupid, silly stuff like that. Abbott did the same thing. Governor Abbott did the same thing. It happens at the beginning of every school year. There's local state reps who will, "Oh, I'm sending my kid to this school today. Oh, I'm so glad for our teachers. Oh, have a fun year." What? But that's, and there are teachers who will eat it up. "Oh, he said that." This is why people get upset with teachers and their voting habits. That said, when a majority of professionals feel disrespected by state leadership and share an opinion that they are unsupported by the leadership, something must give. And with the academic year starting, which it just started up again, there are numerous schools that budgeted a deficit for the year and are looking everywhere for teachers. Let us not think this was an unintended consequence, because this was very much intended. Because when cotton farms don't get rain, cotton yield will be low. Right? That's basic science. And so without proper funding, schools will be forced to do more with less. And that means hiring less than qualified and/or uncertified teachers. From such, students lose a tremendous amount of learning in critical moments of their lives. Okay? And as schools scramble to do the best that they can for their students, come January of 2025, Abbott will be determined for the legislature to pass a school voucher program. And he will cite recent findings, such as the one from Texas Tech, as a reason for parents not to feel trapped in a quote-unquote failing school and be hailed in conservative circles for such advocacy, when in reality, he could be a sound leader and address the issue now instead of perpetuating a self-fulfilling prophecy. So that's my take on this issue here. Yes, uncertified teachers are a problem, but the problem that is truly existing here is the legislature being led by the nose by Governor Abbott on the issue of school vouchers. And if you think he's not going to use this, if you think, well, why would he use this? Of course he's going to use this. He's looking for as much ammo as possible to pass the school voucher bill. So much so, he wasn't exactly helping out House Speaker Dave Phelan in his reelection bid, in his primary or runoff. Even the lieutenant governor was, trying to get rid of him. We all saw that. So let's not think this is accidental. It's not even close to being accidental. This is 100% on purpose. And the governor is the one who is to blame, as is the legislature, for not doing their due diligence here. All right. That's all from me. I appreciate you listening into the Outsider Podcast. Please subscribe to the Outsider through Apple Podcasts. Search for the Outsider Podcast through there. Also on Spotify. Also on YouTube. Just by looking in for the Outsider Podcast. Thank you very much. I hope you have a great rest of your day and or week. And I'll see you again very soon.